Hello, everyone, and welcome to another action-packed yet erotically charged episode of It Crept from the 80s. I am back once again with you as your host, and with me again, very special guest is Mr. Steve May of Streaming Things.
It me. Hi. I'm the
Uh,
Steve. It's me.
And if you watched the last episode, which I know a bunch of you did, and I know if some of you have reached out and said you did subscribe to their channel and to the pod, and I appreciate that because I think it's a wonderful, wonderful podcast, and I listen to them every week, and it's a joy to get to know these guys through the waves of podcastery and YouTubery and things of that nature. And, it's just been good. They're great to listen to. Great group of people, and I appreciate that people are taking my advice and listening to them. And you'll follow suit again once you're done with this episode, folks. You will go find Streaming Things, and you will subscribe to them and give them a listen. There's so much to listen to, and there's great deep dives and right now the whole strike thing is happening, and but they're finding a way to still entertain the masses out there, and I appreciate that as someone who has become hooked to these guys and listen to them every week. So it's nice to have content still, and to hear their sultry and beautiful voices. um
Ooh, sultry. Mm.
yes.
Compliments will get you places.
So there we go. So thank you, Steve. Thank you once again for joining me here on this little nostalgia channel. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's always, last time we had such fun hanging out on the channel. So when you asked me to come back on, it was a no-brainer. Like, of course I want to come out and hang out with you a little bit more on the show. This is so much fun. And we're talking about sci-fi. Hell yeah,
That's
I'm
right.
there, brother.
Yeah, that's right. I have wanted to do this show on my favorite sci-fi for a while, and knowing that you are a sci-fi file, I was like, "Hey, man, I'll see if Steve wants to do it." And thankfully, you said yes, and here we are. So I am excited to sort of pick your brain on this subject and hear some of your favorites, some of the things that you're really, like I said, make those nips twist and yeah, give you those feelings that you like. And I'm interested in just in hearing in general why sci-fi sort of appeals to you so much. Uh, you know,
Yes, sci-fi for me, it started from a very young age, right? I've talked about this a ton of times on streaming things, but my love for movies and TV, you can track the origin of that directly to I'm 2 years old and I'm obsessed with Steven Spielberg's E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Uh, I had the VHS with the green strip on it, and I would watch it. And you're like all kids, every parent knows this. If you have kids, they like a movie, they will watch that movie constantly. And ET was mine. I literally wore out the tape. Like, um, and yeah, ever since ET, there's something about science fiction that does several things that I love, and that's it's able to break down societal conversations into a digestible format. So it might seem like, say, there's a problem with society, you want to make a movie about it. If you just made a straight movie about it, it could come off as pandering to some people. The message might get lost. You get the real world politics kind of feeding into it directly, right? But if you use a story set in space and with monsters and aliens and everything that helps you accentuate the story, it's kind of this, it makes complex ideas in a way far more digestible.
yes.
But then on the flip side, you can make a very, very not convoluted, but complex sci-fi that really kind of broadens your mind and thinking of and understanding of what reality is and can be. Like I always point to, you know, Rick and Morty as a TV show always plays with these very high concept sci-fi tropes in each episode, and you take the jokes out of it because the humor of Rick and Morty is not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
But if even if you take the jokes out of it and you look at the story structure of what they're doing, the tech they're doing, how they're manipulating, the science that they have, it it really kind of broadens your mind in terms of what is possible with reality. What is reality, right? Is it something in our minds? Are we being programmed and stuff like that? And so I always walked away from most sci-fi movies. I always walk away with feeling smarter than I was
Mhm.
before I saw it, feeling way entertained, and being much more hopeful about what is out there and what is possible. That's why I love sci-fi so much.
That's awesome. Yeah, I will agree with you. And I'll add for me why I love sci-fi so much is because of um the awe of it.
Yeah.
I sometimes am just like taken aback by some of the things presented in these films. And me as a now 46-year-old man child, I still have that childlike wonder and awe when I watch movies that are in the genre. And so I can still get tingles and still sort of be blown away by like what's being presented. Um, and it does expand, like, I'll start to think about shit. I'll be like, all right, okay, okay. Like, this is interesting. This is exciting. Um, we talked a little bit on the last one about, aliens and all of that stuff. And I am
Yeah.
I am a 100% believer. And there isn't probably a day that goes by where I don't think about the vastness of this, whatever this is, this
Mhm.
the universe, this the galaxies, all of that stuff. Like our minds and our science and our intellect can only go so far,
Yep.
and we, as a creature, have come up with theories, and we hypothesize about these things. But when you come right down to it, we really do not 100% know what we are, what any of this shit is. And
Yeah.
that's exciting to me. It's a little terrifying, a little uh I don't know. I'm just so it's awesome and I love thinking about it. And so these movies really give me that jolt of like, ooh, it gets me thinking and I get excited and like I said, that awe just comes into it. And I'm like, man, wow, who
Do you,
knows?
do you ever find yourself, because this happens to me sometimes, where I'll read something about I don't know, it's like Jupiter, like the planet Jupiter. They're like, hey, we found another moon in Jupiter because why not? Look, there's another one,
Yeah.
and or they'll be like, hey, we discovered a new dinosaur, right? Any of these sort of sci-fi type discoveries that they have, I always, do you ever find yourself kind of like, oh man, I'll never see that dinosaur alive, or I'll never see that, I'll never see what the surface of that moon looks like. I'll never stand there. And that's really sad. And it
Yeah.
bums me out sometimes, which is why sci-fi movies also kind of fill that hole where like I can turn on Jurassic Park and be like, wow, their dinosaurs are real. Whoa.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's times where we're driving, the wife and and I'll just look out the window and I'll go, man, wouldn't it be cool if a T-Rex just busted out of that, the woods over there and just started running towards us? And she's like, no. And I'm like, are you crazy? The-
Live a little.
Yeah, I mean, like to see a dinosaur in real life, to man, just knowing that they were there and it's exciting. And yeah, they just discovered like another, an Earth that's a two sizes bigger than ours that is like filled with water, you know? And I'm like, well, we'll never see that. I'll never get to
Yeah,
see that, you
such a
know?
bummer.
I'm like, I think about Mars a lot too because there's so much going on in our world that is focused on getting to Mars.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that, man, I want it to happen when I'm here. I want to see someone set foot on Mars. I just want to see it as a species. I just
Yeah.
want to be like, we did it. We
Mhm.
somebody is on Mars. you
Yeah.
know?
Just knowing they're up there makes me feel better.
It's just cool. It's just like how awesome. You know,
Yeah.
we did it. We
There was what was that? There was some sort of lander that the one that went and took photos of Pluto a couple years ago. It was like the first like high quality photos of Pluto we ever had.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
remember like 9 or 10 years ago, prior to that, they were like, "Hey, we're launching this thing to Pluto in 9 or something years. We're gonna have great photos." And I remember like 9 or 10 years ago being like, "Man, that'll be great when that happens, but not going to be the case for me." And then when it was actually finally happening, it was really, really awesome. Like, whoa, how cool that people like science took us there. Like,
Yeah.
it's incredible. I love that shit so much. And movies and sci-fi and movies really make that more attainable in a way that it won't be in reality.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that whole thing that happened with Avatar, where the people like got depressed because it our Earth is not as cool as Pandora, and
Yeah.
everybody just wanted to go to Pandora, and they were like the Avatar effect, and people were like going to therapy and shit like that from like we're not as cool as this could be.
No, no, we can't have floating mountains.
Oh man,
All the creatures have 6 arms.
what a bummer. All right, so let's I probably have a well, I don't know. I don't know how long your list is, but I do have quite a list. And I'll just some of them I'll punctuate, but a lot of these I'll just cruise through them. But
Okay.
what is one of your let's start with you. Let's hear one of your favorite science fiction films that really makes you cream with excitement.
Well, I guess I'll just start with ET. Like I just mentioned it earlier, that literally is like my love of movies in general can be traced back to that movie. And you mentioned a big part of why I love that movie, and that is because it really captures awe and the whole like you got little ET who's objectively terrifying looking, and the scene in the cornfield traumatized so many children, including myself. But the awe of like, wow, an alien's here. Wow, there are aliens mixed with the hope of, and they're not here to kill us. Uh, and then you get the whole, the story of a boy and his friend alien, and you really really feel for those characters, especially the family unit of, the of Elliot, his brother Mike, Gertie, their mom Mary, like that family unit. You really feel for them the whole time, and then so by the end of the movie, and you mix it with John Williams. In my opinion, it's my favorite John Williams score ever, and I think it really goes a long mile in building up that awe and excitement of an alien being here. And we're returning him home to his people. He was lost, but now he's found. Who doesn't love a good story of someone got lost and gets found again? Um, it, I cry during that movie all the time. Like I just
Oh,
watched it for the
I still
show. Yeah, we just watched it for streaming things last week for our Patreon members, and I legit was bawling my eyes out like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, it still hits me, damn it, every
yeah,
time.
yep, I still cry at it. I think it's I'm right there with you. It is on my list as well. ET.
Perfect.
It's the first movie that I remember as a family in the theater, looking down the row of the family and seeing everybody just losing it, bawling, you know, and I'll never
Just
forget it.
it. After you watched it, were you calling people penis breath after?
No, no. But you better believe we were cracking up, you know. And at that point, I'm 5, and I'm like in the in the theater, Oh my
He said
goodness.
penis breath.
But I agree. I mean, I have so much. I mean,
Always getting up. What we getting here? Oh, that's so cool. Is that a lamp?
yeah, the moon lights up.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah,
That's so neat.
I loves me some ET. That's for sure.
Oh, look at him. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's actually that reminds me. There's something my so like we were covering it last week for our show, and a buddy of mine at work brought this to my attention. You might like this. So do you know the Universal ride, the ET ride?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So they actually sell a scented candle of what they pump out into that queue line for the ride. So
That's
I got this
that's
for my birthday. It smells like an 80s reception hall in Pine.
that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, that's a dope ride. I actually, like people are like, man, it's so boring, but I'm like, oh, you're in the sky with them.
That ride slaps, man. A little 11-year-old me, because they like get names from the queue line so that at the end of it, ET says your name.
Yeah, yeah.
So little 11-year-old me that was like clueless that was happening, riding that ride is like, come back, Steve. Like, Jesus, that was just the ET knows my name. Mom, did you know ET knows me? We're friends.
Um, yeah, that's great.
What's the first one on your list?
Um, well, so I definitely most people when they come to this channel, they think everything is going to be like 80s, 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 just because I love it so much and it was my favorite decade and my favorite time to be alive. But I like all sorts of movies from you know all the decades. So first on my list is the two Avatar films, and really for that reason, for the awe factor of it. Um, I was just sort of blown away at what was presented to us visually. Um, yeah, the stories are sort of eh, rudimentary. Stories have been sort of recycled over and over and over and over again throughout cinema, and I get that. But I enjoyed the way it was presented to me. I thought that Weta Digital sort of blew my mind. I thought the Lord of the Rings movies were amazing for what Weta did, and they just sort of like one up themselves like tenfold with Avatar, and I was just super impressed, and I loved the 3D of it. And it was one of the few 3D movies during that whole boom that actually made me feel like I was there, that I was sitting there and sort of surrounded by it, you know. So
Oh yeah, that movie was the reason you saw 3D films, basically.
yeah. So yeah, I think the Avatar movies, I I really really enjoy them. Um, yeah, and they look
Are you excited for the next three? Are there
eight.
going to be five of them? Are there eight?
um, yeah, I mean, we'll see, we'll see. I think I think the second one was good, but like I don't know, it was kind of like the awe of it wore off uh,
Mm.
because I am a fan of the first one, so I've seen the first one so many times, and I guess what impressed me the most about the second one was the evolution of what they could do with the CG.
Oh
And
yeah, all the water stuff is
yeah, the
crazy.
water stuff was really like holy crap.
Mhm.
So I dug that. So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm gonna go see it. IMAX all the way, baby, and you know, we'll just see. We'll see. I don't know. I have a fear that it might get sort of repetitive. Um, just because it's like, okay, how many now? What clan are we gonna see? You know, like, uh,
We got to go to the firebending clan,
well,
and
I guess that's in three. I
then
guess
we'll
we're
go to
getting,
the air temple.
yeah, I guess we're getting volcanic tribe. So it's just like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But boy, are they stunning. And yeah, so
Yeah, that Jim Cameron knows how to make a movie. That's for
he
sure.
does, man. He does. He's a four quadrant filmmaker. The guy, you can't debate. Like who's gonna flop? No, it's the highest grossing film ever. you know.
Yeah. I just want to make a Piranha sequel. Just
Well, I mean, there is.
was
There's
it because he did Piranha 2, right?
he did
He
Piranha
did
2, The Spawning,
The
and
Spawning. I want him
and
to go back to that universe.
I'm
I want a
surprised he
Jim
hasn't.
Cameron. I want a Jim Cameron Piranha movie, but with like Avatar budget.
Yeah, he'd knock it out of the park. Uh,
Oh man.
and he's on my list several times.
Yeah, he's one of the like if you made a Mount Rushmore of sci-fi filmmakers, like I feel like he has to be on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say him now, so we just get him out of the way. But Terminator, and it's I have sci-fi fantasy, sci-fi adventure, sci-fi horror on here, sci-fi comedy, and Terminator is a sci-fi horror, 100%,
Mm-hmm.
and it's phenomenal. And then he just sort of kicked his own ass with Terminator 2, and pumped up that sci-fi magic, and then Aliens. You know,
Yes.
he took a terrifying sci-fi horror and turned it into a dope ass sci-fi action flick.
Yeah.
Um, and they're amazing, and they're on my list, and I love them. Uh, I can't tell you how many times I have seen the Terminator and Aliens, like, and I'm one of those guys who watches a lot of my favorites every single year. So I've seen this stuff a lot for for many, many, many years. Um, but they always make my list for sure.
I've always wanted to do the thing like whenever I make my own short films and stuff, I always usually try to like, oh, I want to do this cool thing I saw behind the scenes of in a movie I liked. I've always wanted to do the classic Terminator looking into a mirror, but it's two different actors because he did that in Terminator 1 with the eye prosthetic scene, and then
Yes,
they did it in 2 with Linda Hamilton and her twin sister
yes,
being on opposite ends here. Yeah, like just that kind of stuff is so cool to me.
yeah, man,
Like I've always like I want to do that. I want to do a trick reflection thing, but it's like four performances at the same time.
that's awesome. He's good, man. You know,
Yeah, there's a reason he makes that money.
he uses all aspects of filmmaking. And I love that. I love that about him. I love that about Peter Jackson. He just doesn't. It's not all CG. Well, I don't know. I mean, now he's sort of CG overload, but I mean, before he loves mixing everything, every tool in the toy chest he will use to make a movie, and I
Yeah,
like that a lot.
and that perfect blend of practical and CGI is when things are at its best.
Yeah, man, and he does a lot of stuff in camera that I appreciate. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Dope. All right, what else you got?
Well, kind of somewhat related to you mentioned the first Alien being a great sci-fi horror. Ridley Scott also made one of my favorite sci-fi movies ever, and that's Blade Runner. Um, Huge fan of Blade Runner. I remember watching Blade Runner for the first time. I was a teenager and just being just like blown away. Like, when did they make this? And it looks this good. It's still to this day one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. Like the shot composition is so great, and I love how dystopian it is, but in a realistic sense. Like nothing really bad happened. There wasn't like a nuclear. Well, there was, I think, but like it's not dystopian because of that. It's just we're people, we're humans. We're greedy little goblins who like to tear down all the trees and pollute everything and put Coke commercials with geishas all over um, city skyscrapers and then make robots that do all the work for us. Um, and then, of course, that led into the sequel, Blade Runner 2049. 2049? Am I getting that number right? Yeah, sure. Yeah, numbers. Um, it just has such a beautiful aesthetic, and I love it when a filmmaker is like, "Hey, we're going with this look, and we're going to lean into it." And even though some of it by today's standards may look hokey, like they got giant computers, and he's like, and Harrison Ford is like, zoom in on frame Delta Quadrant 3, and he goes, it's like making those like terrible noises that like nothing today works like that. But I just love seeing what people thought technology was going to be in the future, and it's almost uh, it makes it more contextual in a way when you have like movies like Alien or stuff that have these giant motherboards and lights behind them. Even though that's not necessarily how science has progressed, it
Yeah.
still makes it more tactile and real. Other than like in some movies where there's just like a lot of Marvel movies do like we've got holograms all over us. We're just pointing at the holograms. Like, yeah, I mean that's probably more the direction we're going towards, but it's not as fun.
I get you. Yeah. But that is not on my list because I will agree with you. Aesthetically, it's very pleasing, but I've probably tried to watch Blade Runner 10 different times and
Mm-hmm.
I've fallen asleep every single time.
Which have you tried watching all the
I have,
different versions?
yes, I have tried different versions. Uh, I mean, I have made it through the whole thing. I know what happens in the movie, but I'm just like, yeah, it's not for me. But I can understand why people love it, 100%. You know,
Yeah, it's definitely a slower, methodical movie that's just like that is kind of just wants you to sit in the world and like look at this uninterrupted shot of a zeppelin, and we're gonna have the Van Halen score just playing, and it's gonna be an oral delight.
I do like the soundtrack actually.
Oh, I
I
love that
think that's
soundtrack.
pretty dope. But yeah, it never hit me.
I like the director's cut. It's probably my favorite version. Um, it's still leagues better than the I think it was the original theatrical cut that had Harrison Ford like
The voiceover,
the voiceover, yeah, where he sounds like bored out of his goddamn mind in a booth, like, I'm gonna walk over here because I don't know, I guess I have to.
yeah. All
Well,
right.
what's next on your list?
Uh, Dune,
Dune.
not the original.
Not the original. Okay, I was about
Uh,
to ask, like, you love David Lynch, or you going
I do like David Lynch. Like I love Twin Peaks. Love Twin Peaks. It's right up my alley. It's weird and fucking goofy and all over the place, and I dig that. Um, but I didn't like Dune. I didn't like the movie. Uh, and back then, like I remember in the '80s watching it on like HBO and stuff, and I just was just like, man, like man, this could be so cool, but I don't know what the hell is going on in this goddamn thing.
Yeah.
And they like they would do back then. There was no way they would film the whole thing, so that it was truncated down to like 2 hours, and that's ridiculous. But I really love that the book. I really love the book.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
such a
what?
weird, far out world that you need to. It's a lot of the concepts in that world are so out there and different than what people are used to. You have to spend time to really focus on like this is why things are the way they are in this universe.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot. There's so many. There's all the politics involved. You know, like that in itself is like
Yeah.
2 hours. But so what Denis Villeneuve did, I thought was
Oh
uh,
yeah.
so I remember IMAX just sitting there like I am I am all in. Like I was just like, this
Yeah.
is magic. I was like, this is, and that's another movie where I felt like I'm there. I'm here, man. Like this feels great. I am on Arrakis. I'm tasting that spice, bro. Like I got it. I don't know. I was, yeah. So and I've seen it so many times. I watch it. You know, I have that 128-inch 4K screen and all that stuff downstairs with the sound, the Dolby Atmos. Like I love watching it. Like Katie's bored out of her mind, my wife, but I'm just like, this is cinema, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love Dune, and
Yeah.
then
Dune is incredible. Again, like a movie that really leaned into the aesthetic it was going for, and like you said, the politics. And I love, dude, I'm such a geek about this shit. Like I love the whole like they have force fields, and that's why they don't have guns. And so because they don't have guns, they all fight with swords, and they have laser beams. They don't want to use them because if they hit your shield, it'll nuke everybody.
yeah,
And
man,
it's just such a deep lore type of thing that I
yeah,
just
the world building is wonderful.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yes,
And the
man.
cast is so good. You
Oh
got
yeah. Oh, oh,
everybody
yeah.
under the sun, literally.
It was great. It was great. My my genitals wept a little bit when they moved chapter 2. And now it's coming out next year. So I was like, oh man. Oh, because it was the one, it was like my biggest, most anticipated movie of the year. I was like so waiting for that to come out, and yeah. Oh well.
Cursed Studios.
I know. What do you do? Pay your people.
Hey, your
You
people.
goddamn people.
Come on. Come
Yeah,
on.
there you go. Dune.
Well, so did we want to like, of course, there's like I feel like the generic answers that I could talk about all day, like your Star Wars, right?
I got it on the list too.
Love Star Wars.
Yeah,
Um, it's my first big fandom I've
me
ever been a
too.
part of. I was 6 years old when I was on a boat randomly with my stepdad at the time had a brother who owned a boat and we were visiting them and they're on this boat in the lake and their boat had like a little tube TV on it with a VHS machine and I think they were all getting annoyed with the 2 6-year-old kids. They're like, go inside and watch this tape, and this threw in Star Wars: A New Hope, and I was just it had me. It had me
Yeah,
like all 6-year-old boys. I feel like that watch Star Wars. It gets it. It gets you.
100%. Yeah, yeah. I love it. Star Wars. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I met my wife uh, through that
Oh,
fandom.
really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Fucking yeah. I showed you pictures, but we got a whole Star Wars room in there, and we've gone to celebrations so many times, and oh yeah, we love our Star Wars.
Oh, I love celebrate. Which celebrations have you been to?
Well, I did the very first one, um, which was fun, but very unorganized, and it was like a fucking hurricane outside. And it was in Indiana. It was my cousin and our buddy. We did that one. Then we did 2015 when Force Awakens was coming out, and then we did 2017
Oh, fun.
and the
I need to go.
2015. That one was the best. The Force Awakens one was best because at that point the fans were still sort of there was
Excited.
a swell of excitement for a new Star Wars movie, and there was still sort of love in the community,
Yeah.
and it was a
The
great feeling. Um,
the subreddit saltier than crate hadn't been made yet.
yeah, yeah, which I recently discovered, and I was like, oh man,
I just discovered it like 2 weeks, like the Ahsoka show premiered, and it had all this like pretty positive feedback, right? And then I see this one post, it's like really trashing it, and all the comments are people really trashing it. I'm like, whoa, this is weird. When did everyone turn on this? Oh, what subreddit is this? Not the Star Wars one. It's saltier than crate. Oh man,
yeah,
A+ name
yeah,
for some D- people. but
yeah, yeah,
but I went to I went to the celebration in 2010, which
yeah.
I
I
think
did.
was
Yeah, I
four.
heard you just mention that on the
Uh,
podcast.
yeah, 2010, and then a couple years later, there was the one directly after that I went to, and I think that was the one that my buddy slapped
Slap
a guy.
somebody. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you didn't get thrown out though. That's
I'm surprised we didn't, to be honest. Like, although we were just so they probably pitied us because we legit were waiting in this section that they told us to wait in for 3 hours,
yeah.
and then just one random person tricks one of the guards to not let us in, and it was like us and maybe like probably 200 other people who were in that queue, just like, find that dude, let's get him.
Man. Yeah, now they starting in 2015, they started letting people sleep over in
Oh really?
yeah, so if you wanted to get in the panel, the main panel, you had to sleep you had to sleep over. Uh so my wife and I slept over because we were like there's no way we're not getting into that Force Awakens panel. No fucking way. And that's where they debuted that teaser, the Chewie We're Home teaser.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I'm glad we did because it was I'll never forget it. Never forget it. It was we were crying, we were cheering, we were just like, 6,000 Star Wars fans like flipping out. It was so great. So great.
Man,
And then
Force
the dark
Awakens slaps still. So
I love Force Awakens.
I do too. I love Force Awakens. I love Last Jedi. Skywalker, I'm not super into, but yeah, like that would have been a really great celebration to go to. The one we went to that we got thrown out of, it was so funny because we went to panel after panel after panel of like, here's this cool Star Wars thing that's happening. Here's this cool Star Wars, look, new video game, new book, new TV show, new movie. All of it was canceled like 3 months later because that's when we bought it. It was so funny.
That's funny. Yeah.
There's so many cool things we got, like first sneak peeks of that never happened.
But you had fun then. You were
Oh yeah,
yeah. At the time it was magical.
oh yeah, absolutely. I got to see George Lucas, so I'm happy.
Art. All right.
What you got over there?
I got Back to the Future.
Ooh, that's a good choice.
Um, yeah, Back to the Future to me is probably one of the most uh, amazing films I've ever seen. I think it's a near perfect film. I can watch it any day of the week. I watch it every year, and I still am just taken by it. It doesn't matter that I know every word. I know everything that's going to happen. I think Back to the Future is insanely entertaining. So that's
100%, it absolutely is.
I
That
love
car is
time
like the
travel.
most iconic car in movies.
Time travel gets me. I'm a sucker for time travel, and what they did I thought was brilliant. And even and I also love part two. I don't love it as much as the first one, but at that point in my life, when Back to the Future 2 came out, it was the first movie that I had seen in theaters 6 times. Up to that point, I think I had seen a movie like 3 times in theaters, like back to back to back, um, like the whole weekend. But Back to the Future, I went 6 times that whole weekend because I was blown away by it. The idea of going into the previous film and doing new things, but still seeing the old movie and everything. I just I thought it was like mind blowing. I was just like, holy shit! Like they're going into the other movie and changing things, and it was so authentic to me and awesome. And that was the first time they did the the camera that like tracks, so they could do like two Marty McFlys touching each other and things
Oh,
like that. It was the
yeah.
first camera that they did for that. That was the first movie,
Oh, I
uh,
didn't know that. That's awesome.
and so it was like, holy shit! Michael J. Fox just took the hat off of Michael J. Fox and put it on himself. It was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. So, and then the hoverboard stuff and everything. But yeah, Back to the Future is amazing. It's an amazing sci-fi adventure comedy.
I love that's a great choice. Do you like the third one?
I do not like the third one, and the only reason, and I remember like, because at the so if you're in the theater watching it, right when the movie says um, to be concluded, they showed you a teaser of part three. It goes immediately into a teaser of part three. And I remember being like, what? Because at that time, like the old West and like Westerns and everything, I was just like, oh, like you could have gone anywhere and you went to the old West and the whole movie's gonna be there. I just was like, oh man. Like in my head, I was like, I could see him going to like, King Arthur doing that, like, the Arthurian legend and all of that, and that would have been cool. And but a Western, nah, I didn't like. So like I did go see it, and it's my least favorite of the three, and I haven't watched three in a very long time because I just am so turned off by it. You know, I mean, I have them in
That's
4K.
fair.
I don't watch the third one.
That's fair. It is like the most completely different compared to the other two. It
I mean,
it
it
does exist in the island.
it takes the, I mean, it literally just takes what one and two did and does it again, but in the old West.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it has that do you remember the at the very, very end,
well, the
Doc
kid.
Brown with the kid's like just like pointing at his crotch, like, hey,
Oh yeah,
in the background the whole
yeah.
time.
He brings the
Yeah.
camera in and then like points to his junk. It's so funny.
There's like this heart to heart moment happening between Marty and Doc, and then the kid in the back are just being a total creep.
It kills me that like I'm like, how did they not notice this kid doing that? Or they did, and they were just like, this is funny. Like, let's just get.
We were gonna be talking about that kid
Yeah, man.
long after he's gone.
Yeah.
Well, next on my list is a movie that I don't know if a lot of people would put on their list, but I love it so much, and that is Starship Troopers.
On my list.
Is it on your list?
Yeah, man.
Ah, my dude.
I've got a couple other Verhoeven films on my list.
Oh, I love Paul Verhoeven. No, I love Starship Troopers so much because his level of satire.
Oh,
Like his satire in Starship Troopers and RoboCop is like the best
yeah.
sci-fi satire.
RoboCop's on
I
my
love,
list.
yeah, and I love how like gratuitously violent they are,
Oh,
and
he
his
loves his blood. He loves more blood. He needs the blood.
I want to make a movie just called Squibs. It's
Yeah.
just people getting squibbed. Um, but no, I love the whole takedown of what a fascistic state looks
Oh
like, and he's so good at the cutaways of like so in RoboCop, he had the cutaways to like the different commercials and news broadcasts that kind of elevated the world, and then Starship Troopers, he has the sort of like I'm doing my part, like
yeah, the
the propaganda
propaganda.
reels,
Yeah.
and like to this day, I'll still say the only good bug is a dead bug. Shortly before I swat a fly.
Oh yeah, man. I joke with a lot of my friends. They're like, "So when are we gonna get that tat, man? It says death from above." So we can all go in there and do that. Oh yeah, yeah, man.
We were on a shoot a couple weeks ago, and I had like 3 or 4 interns with me, and I was like wrangling them, and I did the whole like, "Come on, you apes, you want to live forever," and none of them
Sure,
got it.
yeah. I was gonna say, I'm sure they didn't know what you were doing.
Nope, they're like, "Ew, that's inappropriate."
Great
But
movie.
yeah, Star Trek, big big fan of that movie. I love it so much. I'm due for a rewatch here soon.
The 4K is beautiful, beautiful.
Mm.
Great transfer. Great transfer. Um, all right, let's. I'm gonna sort of cruise through some of these. Like, we did say RoboCop, Total Recall. I love. I think is you know another Verhoeven classic.
Get
Um,
your ass to Mars.
right. Come on, let's do it. Take this thing and stick it up your nose. Yeah. Um, and in that vein, The Running Man, another Arnold movie, but I love The Running Man from '87. I like stories like that where the man is the one who's hunted. That's the sport. I like that whole surviving the game, the most dangerous game sort of trope. I like that. And Running Man was a Stephen King short story, and they did a great job at turning it into a movie. So I love The Running Man. Um, let's see what I got
I have
here.
to see Running Man. Actually, that's a blind spot for me.
Oh my God, it's great. It's good. You tried. I mean, I mean,
Good.
holy shit. I mean, it's right in that time where it's just Arnold is like king and everything is a one-liner. Like, holy shit. Commando. I mean, it was all back to back. Like, and they just kept one-upping the one-liners. And Running Man, he's got it like, whew, it's almost a comedy because of the amount of like one-liners he's got going on in that movie. But it's
That's
great.
like Predator. That's also one
Oh,
of my favorite sci-fi movies,
me
but
too.
because it's probably like the most quotable movie ever. Just literally, it's just like you've been pushing too many pencils, Dylan.
Yeah, man. Stick around.
You son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, wait until you see The Running Man.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm adding that to my list right now because I
And
need more
he's
of that
got
in my life.
I'll Be Back. Because for a while, it wasn't just Terminator exclusive. A while after that, he kept throwing the I'll Be Back in a lot of his movies. And
Oh, I don't know if
it's
I knew that.
oh yeah, and it's very prominent in The Running Man.
He says it like 3 times.
No, but it's like right on his face, and the way he says it is so Terminator. No,
I'll be back.
but yeah, it's great. I love it. So yeah, Predator I think is amazing. What else have I got here? I just want to run through these real quick. I really enjoy, and this is going to be sort of a large swath as far as the genre is concerned, but I like kaiju films, so I love Godzilla. I love the Godzilla films. I grew up loving Godzilla, Man in Suit Godzilla. I like newer Godzilla. I like it all. Um, so I threw the Godzilla films in there. But Cloverfield sort of goes along with that. I really like
Oh,
Cloverfield. I thought
yeah.
that was and I'm not like a big fan of uh, found footage type stuff, but Cloverfield really sort of like for me, I was like, wow, they nailed it. This is that feeling that I want.
Mhm.
I want to be experiencing a giant monster. attacking New York City. So I dig that, and I really actually really love 10 Cloverfield Lane as well.
Agreed.
I think that's a really clever, kick-ass little sci-fi film that you don't even know what's
You don't
going
even know
on.
what's happening the whole
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah. I love it. I love it. And I thought his Predator movie, Dan Trachtenberg, was fucking awesome too. Prey. I was just like,
Oh yes,
holy
Prey's
shit.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Killed
Like
it.
Prey, I think Prey has the best Predator
I
of all
mean,
the movies. That the
it's
look of that Predator is so cool.
it's I think I love I love the movie. I think they he knocked it out of the park, really, like with that movie, Prey. Um
Absolutely.
but uh and okay, I also have like I like the Riddick films. Um Pitch Black is my actual least favorite of those three movies.
Oh,
Because what's that?
I said, oh really?
I like Pitch Black,
But yeah, most
but
people I talk to who love those movies have like that. That's like their favorite is Pitch Black.
yeah, see, I it goes back to world building. I like the world building of Chronicles of Riddick. I like how sort of small Pitch Black was, but then Chronicles of Riddick sort of stretches that out, and there's a whole mythology to what the hell is going on with
Mm.
Riddick and all that stuff. So even though the movie Chronicles of Riddick isn't like the best, I love what they're building to in that. And then I think Riddick is a better made Pitch Black. So like the third movie is a better made first movie. Um,
I haven't seen Riddick. I've seen Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick, but I haven't seen
oh,
the third one.
Riddick, I'm telling you, if there's anything that you like within those movies, three I feel does it the best. I really do.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Pretty pretty good.
I'm adding that to the list.
Pretty good. So that third is just called Riddick.
I just still love. Was it Chronicles of Riddick where he's like, "I'm gonna kill you with my coffee cup, my coffee mug." And he kills that guy with a coffee
Man, I who knows? He does sweet things in all three of
mug. I just love saying that to some people. Sometimes, if I have the rare times I have a coffee mug in my hand, I'm like, "I'll kill you with my coffee mug."
them. And then I'll get these out of the way. I am a huge fan of the Planet of the Apes series. Like all
Yeah,
the old films, the three new films. I don't like Tim Burton's film at all, but the five original films and the three sort of
the
redos.
Caesar Chronicles.
Yes, I love them all. I am since I was probably 12 years old. Those Planet of the Apes films like fascinated me. I was just all on board, and I love what they say about society. I love,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, being a monster kid growing up, like a horror fan. I loved the makeups. I was like fascinated by that and all of that stuff. And then with the newer
Time travel.
trilogy, oh yeah, oh, of course, yep,
Yeah, can't
got the
forget the
time
time travel.
travel. Um, and I love what they did with the newer films, and I was increasingly more and more impressed with Weta once again with what they did with the apes, and I like how basically those new movies are Planet of the Apes. Like I like how like they sort of created the Planet of the Apes in that.
Yeah,
I just thought it was really clever. You know, there's that scene in Rise of the Planet of the Apes in the first one where you see the ship from the first movie, you know, the 1968 film, taking off on its voyage, and that's the ship that's going to get sort of fucked up and wormhole or whatever. But I love what they do. I love what they say, and so yeah, I'm a big Planet of the Apes fan. So
That's a great pick. I need to rewatch those. It's been way too long.
great man, real great. I won't lead you astray.
Oh, thank goodness. I've got some sci-fi kids movies.
Ooh, ooh, lay it on me.
I'm a huge fan of Wally. I think
My wife loves it. My
I oh man,
wife loves it. She sobs.
me too, me too. I It's just such an adorable design, but also I love the idea of humans leave Earth and like just like all right, robots, we're gonna go on a cruise for a couple hundred years, and you guys just clean up Earth. We'll see you in a little bit. And then in the meantime, all the robots have broken down. It's just this one little robot doing his damnedest, and then the rest of humanity is just has have just been they're just big babies essentially, just big giant babies. And it's just a really cute world with some great characters. Have you ever seen The Mitchells versus the Machines?
I didn't, but I've heard so many people say, "Chris, you got to watch it." You know, I guess it's kick ass.
Well, let me add my voice amongst the many.
Okay.
Chris, you gotta watch.
All right. Yeah.
I think you'll like it because it deals with robots, obviously the machines. It's kind of this fun little like we treat our phones like garbage all the time. We're like always yelling at our phones. What happens when the phone's like, well, stop, I don't want you to yell at me anymore. It's got a great cast, and also if you're into making movies, the main character is a young girl who wants to make movies, and so she makes all these little, Gen Z esque movies on her computer. Her dad doesn't quite understand her, and so there's a lot of friction there. And then through the robot apocalypse, they find equal ground and understand one another. And it's really sweet. The animation is stellar
Yeah. I mean,
and really funny.
I've heard nothing but good things. So I just got to sit down and watch it.
Yeah. And then last kids movie I have on here is The Iron Giant.
Another movie that makes folks around me sob. you know.
I mean, just the Iron. I won't go too much into it because it's just a sweet movie, especially if you like vintage type sci-fi with like the old school World War II dress military with their tanks and they're shooting at a big thing. Uh, and I mean, just watching the big robot, the Iron Giant at the end, to say Superman as he's flying. Oh, tears, my friend, tears for days.
All right. I have some kids ones on here as well, but they're a decade, different decade. Um one of them is Explorers. It's from 1985. It's by Joe Dante, and it's awesome. It's a wonderful sci-fi. It's kind of a science fiction Goonies.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it came out, and unfortunately, it didn't do very well. So it sort of even so in 1985, like it was already like it was coming to HBO like 6 months later. Where usually it's like a year. Back then, it was like a year before big movies like that would hit shit like that. And HBO played it all the time, and so that's how I saw it first, probably in '86. But it's River Phoenix. It's Ethan Hawke's first film. He's like 15 years old in
Oh,
it.
wow.
Yeah, he had never acted before. Joe Dante found him at some, I think it was like uh, cafeteria or something like that, and he had a look, that Joe Dante liked, and put him in this major movie that Steven Spielberg was producing. you know,
Wow.
um, uh, and he's awesome. And so, and it's these
I
three
think
kids.
it's cafeteria more often.
It's these three kids who somehow, I don't want to give it away, but it's so cool. Anyway, see, I don't want to give it away because if you don't know about it, like it's such a cool, like, oh wow, this is so fun. Like the reveal of what they do is so fun, and it's a yeah, I don't know. So explorers, it's so because if I told you, it would give away sort of what happens in the part of the punchline of the film is sort of giving away the whole movie, basically. Uh, it's
Well, I have to know
if you
this.
like kids on adventures, and throw in sci-fi, you know, it's explorers.
Well,
Same
I'll have
year
to
as
check that out.
Goonies, and it just didn't hit the audiences. Yes.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds right up my alley.
Um, Another one. This is from 1984. The Last Starfighter. Uh,
Oh yeah.
this is the kid
Oh
who's
yeah.
playing a arcade game and gets called down by an alien race to help him to help them defeat an alien armada up in the stars. Lance Guest, Catherine Mary Stewart, 1984. Uh, Amazing score, cheese all the way through it, extra cheese. Uh, but man, do I love it. You know, terrible, terrible graphics. And at the time, now listen, this is 1984, and at that time, we had already seen fucking Star Wars. Like, I already had my little mind blown with Return of the Jedi a year before that. And then you go see The Last Starfighter, and there's like these rudimentary computer ships that look like blocks and looks like Tron basically like trying to come off as real ships in space, but it doesn't matter because I find the story just so fun, and I was an avid arcade game. I loved my Miss Pac-Man at the little pizza shop and shit like that, and I was just like, man, what if I got called to you know fly a
All my hours in the
starfighter.
arcade have
Yeah, yeah,
finally
yeah.
paid off.
So I love the Last Starfighter. Uh, that's another fun sort of kids, teens. Yeah, we got that going on for you. And then I'll say this real quick, just keeping it on Joe Dante, but Inner Space, from 1987. Inner Space. It's Martin Short and Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, and it's really fucking funny and full on sci-fi. I don't know if you know about Inner Space, but um, uh, Dennis Quaid is a hot shot pilot, and
Okay.
because he's a great pilot, he's getting picked for this experimental uh, this experimental way of being able to fix cells in humans and animals. But the way they do it is that they put you in um, this ship, this small little ship that's only one person can fit in, and they shrink you down and they inject you into the thing, whether it be a human or an animal, and you go in there, you fix, what you need to fix, and then you come out a certain way, you know, and then they make you big again. Well, hijinks ensues. It's supposed to go into an animal, but he ends up going into Martin Short, and when he's in you, you can hear because they can attach to your like synapses and everything, and you can hear what's going on in there. And so Martin Short thinks he's like possessed, and then there's like another like an evil like government that wants to take that technology, but he's inside Martin Short, and it's crazy and fun and awesome and really sci-fi. And it won an Academy Award for the special effects at the time.
Oh wow,
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
that's great.
Pretty awesome.
I love all the people that you mentioned in that.
Oh, it's wonderful. And Martin Short is whew. So I mean, it's
He's
it's
a hoot.
prim, it's primo Martin Short time, you know.
I can blaze through some of the more like modern, quote unquote, serious sci-fi movies I have.
Yeah, man.
Um, there's Her. I think that's a really beautiful movie by that's a Spike Jones movie. Is
I
it? Maybe I had that
oh
name.
maybe I don't know. I can't remember. I saw it
Actually, I
once.
am second guessing myself on that now. Let me double check so I don't look like a total asshole.
I think it might be
Yeah, Spike Jones. Yep,
the beautiful
yep, Spike Jones.
ScarJo.
Yeah, it's just a when that movie came out, I had recently gone through like a breakup, so just like the the idea of like falling in love with Siri and then Siri like there's a moment where Joaquin Phoenix like writes a note to his ex that seems so like makes me so like I cry every time and just the idea of like how attached we are to our digital assistants
Yeah,
and what the next step of that would be. That's a great movie. District 9
it almost made my list. Almost made my list.
almost made it.
Yeah, I do love it, but it's one of those. It's funny because like I'll watch ET knowing full well that I'm gonna bawl, right? But
Mm-hmm.
there's something about District 9 that really like gets under my skin. Probably just because of the subtext of what's happening in that movie. And
Yeah.
I actually feel so much sympathy for the aliens, you know? Uh,
Yeah.
so when I do think about that movie, I get this like overwhelming feeling of like sadness and like like oh, because this is totally what we would do, probably, you know, in some sense. We would totally fuck these guys up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but and that's really the only reason it did make my list. Because I'm just
Well,
so sad.
Neil Blomkamp is so good at making sci-fi that just looks so gritty and
Yeah,
like everything just looks hot and
man.
uncomfortable and suffocating and just derelict. And he does it in a way where like because obviously the big metaphor of that movie is apartheid
Yeah.
and he's able to like just make this like look how gross this is but somehow it's like it's showing you just how gross apartheid is just by just showing what we do to aliens and it's yeah, I love and then that movie introduced me to Charlton Copley as an actor and I quite enjoy him. He has
Yeah.
some crazy manic energy that I love. uh we got Ex Machina.
I knew that was going to be
um
on your list. I did. That was
yeah,
one movie I knew you were going to say. I do like it. It's not on mine, but I do like it. Um,
I mean it's got
yeah.
a stellar cast. Love the ending. Again, another metaphor of how people treat women and
Yeah.
just and also the eccentricity of billionaires as well.
Oh, sure.
Um,
I mean, the dance scene alone is just, and it's,
haunting.
oh, I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I have Children of Men.
Mm, okay.
Um, that's like I don't I think it's technically sci-fi, but it's like the least. It's probably the hardest sci-fi of my list because it's very much in a future. If you don't know, if you haven't listened to it or watched it, listener, it's in the future. For whatever reason, women had stopped being able to give birth, so like there's hasn't been a new person born on the planet for like 30 something years and the youngest person on earth dies so everyone's sad and society's hanging by a thread and then Clive Owen's character is kind of brought into the fold where this woman is the first pregnant woman in 30 years and he has to get her across the country to a safe haven and it has one of the best one shots in film of all time. I think if you're a huge fan of oneers, definitely check out Children of Men. Has the best one in my opinion. And then the last two I have to name is The Prestige.
I, I thought about that. I was like, because I almost wanted to say it was fantasy, so I didn't put it on my list. But
Mhm.
I'll tell you this: it is my favorite Christopher Nolan film. Uh,
Mine too.
I think it's so good.
Yeah. I think it's grossly underrated when people
Oh,
make
for sure.
their list of best Nolan films. It's usually somewhere in the middle or even towards the bottom, and it's like, no, that deserves to be
Yeah.
way above some of the movies you're talking about. But it's great. The whole sort of conundrum that Hugh Jackman's character finds himself at the end, that moral dilemma,
Yeah.
is a very interesting one to ponder. And then plus the competition between his character and Christian Bale's character
Oh,
is
it's
a
great.
fun ride.
Amazing performances. It looks beautiful. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man.
David Bowie's in there.
Oh, Tesla. Mm.
David Bowie is Nikolai Tesla. Come on, what more do you want out of movies? I will build you a machine, Mr. Engineer. And then the last one I have is Minority Report.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I didn't put that on here. Huh.
That
That is a
that's a
great
great,
movie.
yeah. It's Steven Spielberg mixed with Tom Cruise running around. You know, we all love to watch Tom Cruise do a running. But just the idea of like a police force that has these individuals that can see into the future so they can stop crime before it even starts.
Yes, it's awesome.
The problems that that can create in society. But the reason why I put it on here is one of my favorites is I remember watching a long documentary on it years ago, and Steven Spielberg was like, they hired a ton of futurists to come in and say, we think this is where cars will be in 50 years. We think
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
where advertising will be in 50 years. So it's this movie where I can watch and I can still think like, I can see us getting to that eventually. Um, Especially like it's a small thing, but they have the cereal boxes that have the LCD screen that plays the ad for the cereal as you pour it,
Yeah, yeah,
shit like that. Like that's gonna happen, right? We're just we're gonna get there sooner or later. But yeah, that's a great movie. Pretty good, pretty good. Police sci-fi movie if you're into that kind of thing.
yeah. It is good, man. Why didn't I put that on my list?
There's so many good movies. I like you've mentioned a couple that didn't make my list. Like, yeah, I should have put that one on there. That's a
Yeah,
great.
I mean, this is by no means my definitive. These are the only films that I love in the genre.
Yeah.
This is just some favorites. Speaking sort of to Children of Men, but there's a movie called Fortress that I love. And it's from 1992, and it stars Kurtwood Smith and Christopher Lambert,
Oh,
and it's very much uh, it's similar in that. So we're in a society in this movie where they're trying to keep the population at a certain point, and so um, uh, it's sort of been outlawed to get pregnant for women. They're no longer allowed um, to have more kids. And Christopher Lambert and his wife get pregnant, and so they're trying to get over this border before they can see like what's really going on here. That she's like hidden and she's trying to hide the bump and everything, and there's some sort of uh, revolution on the other side where if something happens, they're going to be okay or whatnot, and they don't have to deal with what's happening on the other side. And of course, they get caught, which uh, they throw Christopher Lambert in this like crazy sci-fi detention like prison, and his wife is now like the concubine of the warden of the prison. um and the warden turns out is a cyborg, and he's played by Kurtwood Smith. Um, so it's just,
What a ride.
I mean, it is awesome because it totally is sci-fi. It's like futuristic, and there's robots, robot guards, and there's like, and it's crazy violent. And it's basically you're just waiting for Christopher Lambert to take revenge and kill everybody in sight to get his wife and to go give birth to this child. You know what I mean? And it's fucking dope. It actually really is great. Um, it's called Fortress.
Fortress.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
When you first said Fortress, I thought you were talking about, isn't there a Kurosawa film, Hidden
Oh
Fortress,
yeah, yeah,
that directly inspired A New Hope? But that
yes.
when you first said, oh, okay.
uh, um, let's see. I also have Dread on here. Um,
Dread is awesome.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Um, that one like was a real surprise, you know,
Yeah.
that it was so fucking good. Um, but I love that film. Of course, I got Independence Day on here. Um,
You got to.
I mean, it's you know.
Let's give the aliens a cold.
um, what do I got here? I got Alita, Battle Angel. But
I
I
was
was
wondering if
also,
it was going to come up. I saw the poster behind you this whole time.
yeah, yeah. So I'm also a fan of the original anime. Um, and that's how I knew the story of it. I never read the manga of it, but I did have the VHS of the anime growing up, and it's a great story. And I thought it was kick ass. Again, Weta did an amazing job with it, and I love Robert Rodriguez. I just he's right up my alley with what he does. Not everything, but I thought he kicked ass with that movie.
Yeah,
I
that was
also
a
have
good movie.
Ready Player One. Um, so many reasons why I love that movie. uh, the book has more 80s stuff, but I thought, and the book, I don't know if you have read the book or know about the book, but the book is so much leaning into Spielberg. So it was great that they were able to get Spielberg to do the movie.
Yeah.
Um, and just all the 80s stuff and the video game stuff. All that, I just thought it was magical. So I love Ready Player One. Pacific Rim really twists my
Oh,
berries. Like holy
Pacific Rim,
again,
Rocket Punch.
I love kaiju, giant robots, and grew up with Voltron, so I love all that stuff. So like Pacific Rim actually is one of the movies that I'll show as like a reference quality down in the theater because holy shit, it rocks your world. It rocks your world down there, and it's one of the best home 3D movies like that I've
Is it
ever seen.
really?
Yeah, great. IMAX, it was great, but at home, it's like, I mean, destruction is happening like right here in front of your face. It's just like this is amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was fucking dope.
Oh,
Yeah, let's see. Oh, Prometheus. Like lots of people don't like this movie, and I get why they might not dig it, but man, do I dig it! I dig Prometheus so much. That's up there for me. Um, and I also really hate the name, but I've watched the movie probably 50 times already. But Edge of Tomorrow. Um,
oh yeah, I almost put that one on my list.
I
I
love it.
love Tomorrow.
It's so great. So great.
Live,
So clever.
what's it? Is Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, or All You Need Is Kill?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the three titles.
Yeah. And All You Need Is Kill is the original. That's the manga that it was based off of.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
oh,
my favorite title of all of them.
yeah, man. I like Come on.
Great title.
Um, so okay, I got Quiet Place on here.
Oh, good one.
I think that was really something, really effective. Escape from New York.
Classic.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Snake Plissken.
hell yeah, man. Not my favorite Carpenter film, which happens to be also on my list, The Thing. The Thing.
That's on my list too. Love the thing.
Yeah, that is my
So
favorite
good.
Carpenter film. Um, let's see. Oh, okay. This is funny. This is a comedy. But 1985's Weird Science. Uh, it's it's one of my favorite comedies of all time. I love John Hughes. I love the fact that he took such a different turn from 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, and then this weird comedy sex romp about two teenage boys making a girl out of their computer. Like, fuck,
Yeah.
bonkers.
Classic.
And I love it. Another one in that vein is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Now, some people might write this movie off and just think it's like this ridiculous, stupid boner comedy. And it is that. But man, I don't know when the last time you've seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is, but Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is really fucking smart. It is
It
very
is,
smart.
yeah.
Not only with its comedy, but it's smart with its time travel.
Mhm.
You know how they handle time travel and what they're saying about time travel in the film. It's super fucking smart, and
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I think it's wonderful. Um,
Yeah, I don't think people give it enough credit that it deserves.
no, man, and that's fine. At its surface, it is what it is, and people can
Mhm.
take it for that. But if you just sit there and watch it and really like watch the movie, and you know, it's just kind of like, oh shit, okay, yeah, they did their homework, when they were writing this movie, which is great. I also have The Fly from
Oh yeah,
1986, the remake with Jeff Goldblum. Uh,
classic.
talk about a fucking body horror, Cronenberg at his finest, sci-fi horror movie.
Mhm.
Fucking bonkers. Um, uh, oh, I have Arrival.
Arrival's really good.
Uh,
Yes. I've
Arrival.
been meaning to rewatch Arrival like for the past 2 weeks. I'm like, I need to watch this. It's funny how that movie's come up so often in the last 2 weeks for me. I
Yeah,
need to watch it again.
yeah. I think that's another one of those movies that sort of gives me the awe feeling, like
Mhm.
because again, once I say I believe in aliens, I believe they have been here long before we even were here. I totally believe in all of it. I believe that our government knows and all that stuff. But I think this is sort of one of those movies where it realistically takes a look at how it might go down as far
Yeah.
as full sort of contact. You know,
Mhm.
I love that
I
about
think it's the most realistic movie. Like if
it.
it portrays the realism of like the Earth politics at the same time as this huge event happening.
Yeah,
Because so many movies like just gloss are like, oh, there's aliens and they've come to America because where else would they go?
yeah,
But I remember like in Arrival, there's a scene where like the Chinese are pissed they came here first.
yeah.
Like that's so real.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Um, and then I've just got a couple more, and then we can rock with what you got. Because I do have something on here that I know 100% you're going to talk about, so I won't talk about it. I will leave that for you.
Oh, the pressure's on. I hope I didn't forget it.
No, I know you did. Uh, have you seen Dark City,
Yes, I've seen Dark City with
1998?
Rufus Sewell.
Yep, yep,
Is Rufus in it? Yeah.
yep. And Kiefer Sutherland and Jennifer Connelly. And boy, do I love Dark City. My girlfriend at the time and myself, we went to the theater to see it. Nobody was in the theater. It was playing at like one of the little, independent theaters in Rochester, and it really like, yeah, it did it for me. And the director's cut is sublime. It's so good. Uh, so yeah, I love that movie. Um, it's sort of pre-Matrixy
Hmm.
stuff. It really has some shit to say about that sort of world and what.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah,
is reality? And
yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. Uh, and then I'll end with these two movies that mean so very much to me. Um, One is Super 8.
Super 8. Yeah.
Um,
You have that poster, is it behind your left there against the wall?
yeah, I've got
Is that what
several.
it is?
I got a couple posters of Super 8. I've got
Oh, one of the cubes. Whoa. That's cool.
and I kept when this came out, I kept that.
Ah, that's awesome. What a good movie. Super 8 is great.
Oh yeah, Super 8 is one of those movies that made me bawl. I was bawling. Um, it was actually it's significant for a couple reasons. It's one of the last movies um, that I went to the theater with my first wife, and it was, it was sort of at that time we sort of knew that things were sort of pushing us apart, and we weren't sort of jiving together anymore. We had our baby, and it was, I mean, I don't know. River was probably 4 at that point, but still, River could feel the tension between the two of us, and um, but we went to this movie, and the movie sort of, while we knew things were pushing apart, it was a movie that she knew she could see on my face meant so much to me. And her knowing me for 9 years, she knew that it was really affecting me. So it was sort of our last time of being like close. And her, I don't want to say like comforting me, but just sort of being there and sinking, sort of,
Mhm.
like, um, because that movie is sort of everything that I love rolled into one movie. It literally is JJ ripping off Steven Spielberg and Steven Spielberg producing this ripoff. Um, and it has the kids, it has the sci-fi, it has the alien elements, it's got the pull at your heartstrings elements, and it's got the horror elements. It's got the kids making horror movies. And I was a kid making horror movies growing up, and I had friends, and we went on adventures, and we made dumb, shitty fucking movies growing up, and it's everything to me. And I remember smiling until my face hurt through the movie. I remember just tears constantly on my face the whole movie, and I remember, having those moments with her, sort of the last real like connection. Like, we know this is it, but man, we've been through a lot, and she could see just the love for movies and the love for making movies and all of that. So Super 8
Oh,
holds a very special place in my heart. Um, and then my favorite Spielberg film of all time is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
it's a good one.
I love it. Uh,
This is important.
yeah, I mean, I mean, that movie, and certainly seeing it at the age that I did growing up, um, it really sort of broadened my mind as far as reality and what's really out there. Um, and all of the things that he did, all of the people he gathered, all of the UFOologists, and all the scientists that were truly behind this phenomena, like helping him make this film and making it as like authentic and real as possible at the time. Um, I fucking love it. I think and that's saying a lot because there's so many Spielberg films that I adore. You know,
Same. Yeah.
um,
I love listening to stories about Spielberg making Close Encounters because there's a lot of stories of him like going out and interviewing people who had an alien encounter, right? And I just love picturing Steven Spielberg going across the country, like, so tell me about what you saw over there. I
yeah,
just,
yeah,
that just makes me so happy for some reason. Like, I just love that idea that there's a family in the middle of nowhere that had to shoot their guns at 3 foot aliens, and Steven Spielberg went and talked to them for an afternoon, and ET was made. You know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
like that kind of shit. It's so funny.
100%. Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, Super 8's great. Thank you for sharing that story with me. Like, it's I'm glad you get to have that memory with it. It is an amazing movie, especially if you're a filmmaker at the same time. Like, that's like that perfect movie for you.
Oh my gosh.
Have it as a filmmaker yourself. Have you ever been in a situation where a train starts going by somewhere off the distance, and you go
I
production value?
I wish. I wish. No, there's certainly, not quite like that, but yeah, there's definitely and certainly back then, in the 80s when I'm shooting my VHS backyard epics and whatnot, like anything where it felt like not just your backyard, if we could shoot in a grocery store, it was like, this is like a real movie, you know? So yeah, I mean, it just, oh my goodness. Yeah, that movie. I loved it so much that I wanted to do a pilgrimage to where they shot the film. Because
Where
there,
did they shoot that?
well, it's in Virginia, but it became a tourist attraction. Um, because they shot so much of the movie just in this real town, and then they just changed the signages and made it, 1979. But the town is there, and so the town sort of like started doing these pamphlets and everything, like come to, the town where they shot Super 8 and shit like that, and you can see where they did this and this and this, and so I was like so dead set on going, but nobody ever wanted to go with me because they were like, "Well, it's going to take 9 hours to get there. No way, we're not going to drive 9 hours to your stupid movie love affair." Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's where they shot the movie. Well, I'll end on this movie, so I really hope it was the one you thought I was going to say. Speaking of Steven Spielberg,
Yeah. Come on now,
it's a
give it
it's
to
a
me.
little it's a little movie called Jurassic Park.
Yes, yes. It's
Oh, life finds a way, my friend.
also
You
on my
got
list,
there.
but I knew you were going to hear.
Yeah, Jurassic Park is, you know, the older I get, the more I can confidently point at that movie and say, that's my favorite movie of all time. I love that movie so much. I think it is a perfectly paced movie. The pacing in that movie is insane. You think 20 minutes go by and it was the full 2 hour long movie. Um, the, 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 every character is so iconic. Like they all have like an iconic look. The idea of a park where you can go see dinosaurs is incredible. And this goes back to how good Spielberg is at creating awe. Like, and I think the first movie succeeds in a way where none of the sequels ever did.
It never
Uh,
could. It couldn't.
yeah, they never could capture the same magic. I think maybe Jurassic World was the closest in capturing a specific facet, and that was just like, wow,
Well,
dinosaurs.
it
Yeah,
was the
how amazing
realization.
is it?
You know,
Yeah,
it was like now it's the park, and they're there. And it's
and,
the
and
realization
there's
of this. And man, what if they really did this? Let's do this.
yeah, yeah, but like the first one is so good at like spending the first hour just being just like, how cool is this? Through science, we've brought dinosaurs back and we get to see them. Isn't this magical? Everyone, you know, who's ever thought of what a dinosaur would look like can just sit back and just appreciate it. And then the later half of the movie, they're like, okay, let's make it scary.
Yeah.
And the horror works. Like the T Rex breakout scene is just one of the most iconic scenes ever. The raptors in the kitchen scene is so tense and just dripping with just horror, and I love it. Those things are so nasty and mean. I love them to death. Uh, of course, you got John Williams score to back everything up, and it's just a. I think Ian Malcolm says something in the beginning or in the middle of the movie where he's like, "Your scientists were so preoccupied of whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think of whether or not they should." And I think that's such a cool message for a sci-fi movie to have. Like, yeah, we could do this. Isn't this neat? But should we have done it? And I get so frustrated with what was it called? Jurassic World, the second one, Fallen Kingdom,
It, oh yeah, yes, it was. Yeah.
the one where they're in the mansion.
Yes. Yeah.
I get so frustrated with that movie because I think there's a really, really, really fun moral dilemma and concept to explore in that movie. And that's in the first half. Because the first movie is like, hey, should we bring dinosaurs back? Is that morally right? Should science do that? And I think the Fallen Kingdom could have like wrestled the question, hey, we brought these things back. Is it our responsibility to keep them alive and protect them? And I thought that was a much more interesting story that they only focused on the first half hour, and then we're like, let's get to a creepy mansion and do like human cloning and all that stuff. It's like, no, we don't care about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't care. We don't see these movies for that shit. We want the dinosaurs are the thing we want to see,
Yeah.
and we want to treat them with respect and awe. And I think the first movie is so good at that. Yeah, Pete Spielberg for me. I love it.
So I have a quick little story about that. Um, the movie came out. Me and my buddy went to see it. I was 16. The place was packed. This was one of the first movies that I had ever sort of experienced this feeling of um, wow factor. So it comes to the scene where they first see the Brachiosaurus, and the entire theater gasped.
Really?
Yeah, all of us, like including me, like because we had never seen anything like this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was goosebumps and just like I had never. I mean, I've had hooting and hollering theater experiences, but this was like all the air went out of that theater. Like it was so cool and exciting. Like I'll never forget it. Like it was just everyone was on the same page. Everyone was just lost in what they were seeing, and just a giant gasp of all across the theater. Like,
That's incredible.
yeah, it was awesome.
Everyone knew that movies were different from that point forward.
100%. Like,
Yeah.
shit.
Like that movie still today looks better than most movies that come out today.
Isn't
Like
that weird? Isn't that
it's so
weird?
strange. Like there's literally a couple shots of the CGI T-Rex and the T-Rex scene. I'm like, that looks photoreal. Like that. I would believe that was a real monster. And then a movie will come out this year. It's like that's the fakest monster I've ever seen. What why is there such a disconnect here?
Yeah. Yeah. And even in the Jurassic movies,
Yeah.
like it's like, what's going on here? You're good, but
You're not 1993 Jurassic Park.
yeah, it's so odd. It's so odd that you have the blueprint. You guys created it. You know, ILM, you did it. Like, do it again.
I base my entire life in how time works all around Jurassic Park. Instead of like BC and AD, my life is BJP and
Yeah.
AJP. Like, did this happen before Jurassic Park or after Jurassic Park? Because that's how consequential of a movie that is in my life. I remember, so I was 6 when it came out, and I saw it in theaters. It was my first PG-13 movie I'd seen in theaters. Um, I don't really remember anything. Like, I think I was too young to kind of fully grasp audiences at that point. I just remember like, oh, scary, hide my eyes. But I remember a year or so later when we got the movie on VHS, I spent like a week hyping myself up, like looking at my little self in the mirror, like you're gonna do it today. Today's the day where you watch the T-Rex scene without closing your eyes. You're gonna watch that lawyer get ripped off the toilet, buddy. And then I did it, and I like my mom came home from work that day. I'm like, Mom, guess what I did? I watched Jurassic Park with my eyes open. She's like, uh huh, cool, buddy. Yeah, Jurassic Park, love it to death.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, it's just like, what do you do? Like Spielberg, it's just, any of those. He's done so many amazing films, and it made it on my list. But for some reason, Close Encounters for me has always been my favorite, which is interesting because, like, and it all affects you differently. Jurassic Park affected me in a way. E.T. affected me in a way. Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom is my favorite Indiana Jones movie. It always has been. And I think a lot of it has to do with like whatever you saw sort of first. So like I saw it in theaters. I was dressed up as Indiana Jones. I had fake stubble on. Like I had an amazing time in the theater watching Temple of Doom. So it always sort of, I think that just stuck with me, and to me it's my favorite. Sort of same with Return of the Jedi. I saw Return of the Jedi in theaters. I'm 6 years old. I'm jumping up and down on the seat during the speeder bike scene. It affected me. And so to me, Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars film. So yeah, Close Encounters again, it's just that awe. It's just that like what if like this has got to be so close to, and like I sort of say to myself, now there's this whole like, oh, he's a dick. He left his family, to get on that ship and go. But in my mind, I'm like, I didn't really leave his family. I would assume that he thinks he's going to come back to his family. But there's that part of me that is like him, where I'd say, this is life changing. Why would I not fucking get on this ship and go like,
Yeah,
have my life change? Like, and fuck it, man. I would do it. I would step on that ship and I would go. Like, and I'd be,
you're a braver man than I.
yeah, I mean, I would do it. I mean, especially if they were like that, I mean, if they're coming out like fucking War of the Worlds and they're trying to disintegrate everybody, hell no, I'm not getting on that ship. But if they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do some sign language, and like all of that stuff. Come, let me show you the wonders of the universe.
You want
Uh,
to see that new moon of Jupiter you discovered? Come along with me.
yeah, man. Yeah, then you got me. You got me. Because it's like, listen, that was a situation where it was everyone was there. It was a giant event. I'm not sleeping in my bed. I'm not like thinking I'm safe and sound, and then wake up and there's like aliens around me. Like we're gonna take you, and we're gonna give you a heart attack and shit like that. Like,
We're not gonna fire in the sky, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You ever see Spaced?
Oh my god, are you kidding me? Come on now.
I love there's it was the first joke that made me laugh. I think it's in the first episode that made me realize, oh, I'm gonna love this show. Is when Simon Pegg is just playing around with mashed potatoes, and then he just points to it and goes, "This is important."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, they get that joke.
I mean, that show is just a pop culture, reference this,
Smorgasbord, yeah.
reference that. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was actually the first. So in 2002, it was the first time I got a region-free DVD player, and I was like, "Ooh, the world is my oyster." So I went on Amazon UK and I started importing shit, and I just read the synopsis of Space and was like, "This sounds right up my alley." So I just imported it from the UK and fell in love with it. Fell in love. Yeah,
So good.
hell yeah. I actually met him. I met Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright at
Oh, awesome.
the premiere of Land of the Dead. It was George Romero. He finally came back to the Dead series after since 1985. So in 2005 he made Land of the Dead, and um, as a wedding present, some friends of ours got us premiere tickets to go see Land of the Dead in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Uh,
that's a great gift.
and so George Romero, Tom Savini, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Edgar Wright, they're all there. Everybody's there, and we're like, who the fuck are we? We're in this like premiere. Oh my god, this is amazing. I have pictures. Hell yeah, we took pictures. And Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright were there, and at this point, I had not seen Shaun of the Dead. So my love was all spaced. So I sort of cornered them and talked for 25 minutes about my love of Spaced to Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright. And we talked Star Wars, we talked Kenner
Oh,
action
man.
figures. It was amazing. And we got a picture. And they were like, oh, it's your honeymoon? This is part of your honeymoon? Hell yeah. So they took pictures. Yeah, it's fun.
That's so cool. I'm glad you got to go to that.
Yeah, man.
That's so fun.
What? So crazy. So weird. Very much like that. Yeah, I'm sure your experience with the Spider-Verse movie. You're in this situation where it's just like, what the fuck am I doing?
Oh, I know. Like
Huh?
there's that point where I bumped into or like I was standing waiting for the crowd to like walk past me and I feel the presence behind me and I turn around, it's Jake Johnson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I double taked at him because I felt someone standing behind me and I just kind of looked back to see who was behind me and then like, wait, is that was that Jake Johnson? And he sees me double take at him and goes, just give me like
Yeah, man. I mean that here.
I'm here. You see correctly.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It's interesting. Like so like at that point, um, I was Tarantino was a big deal. Robert Rodriguez is a big deal. But they were actually so Robert was in the corner sitting in a chair with his cowboy hat over his face. So basically no one was like bothering him.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a shitty thing. So I was like, well, fuck, I'm not gonna waste an opportunity to talk to Quentin Tarantino. Uh, However, every male in the room that tried to talk to him, he completely snubbed you. But every female that talked to him, he was like the life of the party.
That tracks.
It was a real slime ball, I mean, he was a real like, this guy's a creep, you know. I mean, he literally acted like I wasn't in front of him talking to him. And then throughout the night, I could see that he was doing that to every guy in the room. But every girl that went up to him, he was like so gregarious and, oh, here, I'm going to give you my full attention and, all that shit. It was real scummy. It was like, oh, yeah, I don't think so.
That tracks. I believe that for sure.
Yeah. Well, shit. This was magic.
You've seen it happen, listener. Magic has happened
I
all
know.
over your screens today.
My God, I mean, this is better than David Blaine. This is this is better than Chris Angel's Mind Freak.
You just got mind freaked.
You got to listen to us wax poetic about some of our favorite science fiction films, folks. I mean, this is luck. You're blessed. You're blessed individuals
Mm-hmm.
to listen to us nerds talk about.
So next time you're in front of your TV, not sure what you want to watch, just think back on one of the 20 or so films we just talked about. You're gonna have a great time.
That's right.
We just made your weekend for you. You're welcome.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the list. Oh, guys, you've got your marathon plan. All
Yeah.
right. So, criminy, Steve, I thank you so much for doing this video with me. I very much appreciate it. You're wonderful to talk to. You're every bit as charming and nipple tweaking as you are on the podcast. And again, folks, I implore you, check out Streaming Things wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's also on YouTube, and you can watch their beautiful faces talk about the things that you want to hear them talk about. And it's been a couple of years now that I've listened to this podcast, and I think they're wonderful. And like I said, they are a weekly staple for me. And I think any of you fans of my shit, I know because you've talked to me, you've said that you've subscribed, but more of you, come on.
More. Come on. We're fun. We're a fun bunch. Come hang
Very
out with
fun.
us.
Very fun.
Me, Kit, Madison, sometimes Andy, others.
That's right. Andy just
We-
came back for a very special episode, which was great. Great episode. Very
He's
fun
gonna be
episode.
he's gonna be back this week again.
Oh,
We're covering the Book of Eli.
My gosh. But if you want to hear and if you want to see Steve cry, this episode with the hot sauces is fantastic. And oh my gosh, you can point and laugh, and oh, it's great. Guys, Streaming Things, I'm gonna put it again in the notes, link all the places to go find them. Being serious, they really are fucking amazing, and I love them. And it's like sitting down and hanging out with your buddies, and it's a great podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me onto your show again. It's always a pleasure. I love talking movies, and you're a great person to talk with about them.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. I feel blessed that you would even remotely talk to me. So
one day do an in-person in studio recording. That would be. I think that's the goal for next time.
You say the word, I'll come down, man. I don't care. You know, I've been to that area. I sell at conventions all around the country, and you better believe I've been to Cincy and all in those areas, and in Kentucky, I've sold to Kentucky. Actually, let me tell you a story about Kentucky. Like they did the premiere of Sex Squatch in 2012 was in Kentucky at the Fright Night Film Fest, and it was packed. And it was great. It was one of our best screenings. It was such a hoot and a holler, and they fucking loved it. It was awesome. And we go to Horror Hound. Horror Hound weekend is always in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we go to that show a lot, and it's a fucking great convention. So I got no problem driving to be on the set of Streaming Things, my friend. I would do it. Don't you tempt me. Don't you tempt me.
Well, we're gonna have to plan something out, especially if you come into the area for Horror Hound or anything like that. Horror Hound. I have a hard time saying Horror Hound and not saying I'm just those horror hounds.
Cincy is known for those brothels. Yes.
Yeah. Next time you come up for one of those, let me know. We'll work some out.
Hell yeah. All right, folks. Thank you, Steve. I will. We're gonna go, Steve. When I hit stop, you just hang in there, and I'll talk to you a little bit. But thank you guys for watching this. Thank you, Steve, for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give us a like.
Do it.
Give us a subscribe.
What's up, baby?
there's so much crap on this channel that you might enjoy if you're
I
a
would call it gold.
if you love nostalgia, if you love any of the shit that we talked about on this episode, give it a shot. And we'll see you next time on this manically erotic episode of It Crept from the 80s. Bye.